What is reckless spending? I'm Stephen Paluga with WatchGuard Capital, and that is the question we'll be answering today. Here are the annual financial reports of the United States government for 2015 to 2021. I've read all those, and most other years too, which makes me super weird, but also pretty informed on reckless spending. If you took the stated assets of the government and subtracted its liabilities from 2015, its net position was negative $18.2 trillion, which is a lot of money. Unless you can just create it with keystrokes, then it could be solved in that amount of time. But if we didn't want to dig our hole any deeper than $18.2 trillion, we needed to increase taxes or decrease spending, or some combination thereof, by $4.1 trillion in 2015 over the next 75 years. By 2021, that hole was $29.9 trillion deep, and the amount we needed to increase taxes or cut spending grew to $97.6 trillion to not go any deeper. So was there reckless spending? Absolutely, but what was it on? This is the data from the 2014 to 2021 fiscal reports. The yellowish color is the net position of the United States, or assets minus liabilities. The gray is how much more Social Security will cost than taxes collected over the next 75 years under current law. The red is the same for Medicare, which is twice as worse off. And the green is how much general taxes will be collected over general expenditures for things like military spending and everything else that isn't Social Security and Medicare over the next 75 years. As stated before, in 2015, our net debt position was negative $18.2 trillion. Social Security and Medicare had 75-year shortfalls of $13.4 and $27.9 trillion, but we expected we would collect $37.4 trillion in general tax surpluses that could be used to offset those shortfalls, which is why we only needed $4.1 trillion more of taxes or spending cuts over the next 75 years to keep this number from going more negative. By 2017, the 75-year outlook for Social Security, Medicare, our net position, and the expected surplus of general taxes had all slightly deteriorated. So what did we do? We passed the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in December of 2017, and the expected surplus of general income taxes dropped by 76% in 1 year, down to $7.8 trillion. Then COVID happens in 2020, and we collectively increased our spending outlays by a couple $1 trillion to prop up the economy with public debt. And now we needed $79.5 trillion over the next 75 years. But more alarming is the fact that we updated our general tax expectations from having surpluses to shortfalls over the next 75 years, which means that our fiscal position has deteriorated by at least 1,977% or $92.9 trillion. So was there reckless spending during this time span? Absolutely, but on what? And the top three items are: number 3, an inefficient tax code. There's no scenario where the complexity of our tax code is benefiting us, and it's actually very detrimental to economic growth and democracy for that matter. We need to simplify our tax code to close a bunch of tax loopholes, which I show how to do in this video. And we need to stop treating and taxing the income of one American differently than another American, which I show how to fix in this 3-part series on establishing a unified tax code. Because all that complexity is enabling reckless spending. On item number 2, a blind eye to fraud. We have over $600 billion in tax fraud occurring annually, which I review in this video titled, "What the hell is the tax gap and who stole $600 billion?" I tracked all that annual tax fraud from 2000 forward, and it accounts for over $10 trillion, or a third of our public debt in 2022, which I explain in part 2 of that series. But not addressing those two systemic issues is leading to reckless spending. On item number 1, time. We are spending and wasting time at an alarming rate. The fiscal gap, or the additional surplus required as a percentage of gross domestic product over the next 75 years, was 1.6% in 2016. So basically, we had to allocate 1.6% of the economy for the next 75 years to keep the hole from getting deeper, but we didn't. So it grew to 2% in 2017, jumped to 4.1% in 2018, and now is expected to be 6.2% of our economy for the next 75 years. So is there reckless spending occurring in our nation's capital? Absolutely, but how can you help fix it? Number 1, subscribe to this channel. Number 2, leave a comment for this video if you liked it, or if you disagreed with it to help me understand what I got wrong. And number 3, anytime a politician uses the phrase reckless spending in an email, post, or tweet, paste a link to this video as a response to let them know that you know what that means and what needs to be fixed to stop wasting the time of Americans for the next 75 years. Because time is money, and you should always invest your time wisely.